The issue that we want to talk about today is an issue called, or the opportunity and the technology called digital therapeutics. And what we're doing is we're taking these devices, these smartphone devices, and we're now using them to create treatments and protocols and delivery devices for treatment of specific kinds of ailments. Now, I tend to try and stay away from medicine. I tend to try and focus on things like healthcare business models and economics. And the reason I do that is because I'm not a physician, and I want doctors to be doctors, and I want to look to them for their sage counsel and their advice, and and I want to support them in their pursuit of treatments that are helpful for solving diseases. There's a new area, though, which is this area of digital therapeutics, where we're seeing this increasing symbiotic relationship between medicine and technology. And when I use the term technology, I'm really talking about things like artificial intelligence, cognitive reasoning platforms, algorithms, software, and databases and the like, all coming together to help treat or solve medical problems. And so that's exciting to me, and I hope it's exciting to you as well. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So when I started this, I was talking to my friend Amanda about the digital therapeutics, and to that end, I started doing some homework on it. And of course, and it's unsurprising that there's actually within the construct of the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, there actually is something called a Digital Center of Excellence. And the Digital Center of Excellence states as its goal on the website to empower stakeholders to advance healthcare by fostering responsible and high quality digital health innovation. And it includes the idea of the smartphone as a delivery model. And they also point to another element of their anticipated outcomes. So they go through goals, objectives, and then anticipated outcomes as including the opportunity to strategically advance science and evidence for digital health technologies that meet the needs of stakeholders. Well, stakeholders includes obviously not only the people who are developing the tools, but also the patients who are using those tools for the purposes of improving their health and dealing with chronic and other forms of healthcare issues. May not be chronic, maybe it is chronic, but we'll talk about that also in just a second. The idea here is really interesting to me because it brings together these very, very different disciplines. It's not surprising that a lot of the intellectual capabilities and the intellectual competencies overlap between technology and medicine. But the way that some of these things are coming together is very, very innovative. The website also that I'm drawing your attention to, and I encourage you to go out and take a look at, includes topics such as software as a medical device. Think about that for a second. Software as a medical device. They include a list of experts. So these are digital health experts and digital therapy experts, where you can reach out to them and they have their own specific areas of excellence where they can speak to and help play a role in developing new protocols, new therapies, and the like. And I don't want to suggest that it's just software. There are also hardware devices too, obviously. We've seen some of the tools that have been made available by smartphones where you can take an EKG using your smartphone. You can monitor your glucose levels, and there are other things you can monitor as well. They list in their fields of focus artificial intelligence, physiologic sensors, wearables, and the medical Internet of Things, they refer to it, digital therapeutics, software engineering, real-world evidence, mobile networks and wireless communication, cybersecurity, and digital biomarkers. All of these things are contributing factors to the success of digital therapeutics. And to give you an idea of the way of how early this is and how much momentum it's grabbing, in my view anyway, as of February 22 of 2021, there were 126 organizations listed as quote unquote participating organizations in providing digital therapeutics experts to the conversation. There are also a number of different communities, collaborative communities they've identified, and they're they're facilitating and supporting. But it should come as no surprise that we are going to need a different approval process, different kinds of regulators, and different kinds of engineers and technologists and scientists who are involved in the regulatory process to evaluate the efficacy and to expedite approval for these technologies. And that's going to be something that everybody needs to get used to. The regulators themselves are going to need to get used to a different approach and a different way of doing things, as well as the people involved in the process themselves. And I anticipate that there are going to be some bumps and bruises along the way as we develop these things in real time. We just don't know how it's all going to play out. And because this is such a new field, we're going to have some growing pains. It happens every time new technologies are developed, and so this won't be the first time, but it is something that we're going to have to deal with, not only within the agencies and the departments, but also out in the market. And we're going to need to figure out new ways of not only putting things forward, but also new ways to finance them, capitalize them, roll them out, distribute them. And this is going to have a very much of a domino effect throughout all of healthcare. So I don't want to overstate this, but I think that the implications for this are very, very significant, especially as they move a lot of the advice and the therapies themselves out to the end user, the individual patient, who can then interact with the technology themselves directly. They'll be interacting with physicians differently. It calls into question immediately, for example, issues like state licensing of physicians and telehealth and telemedicine, because support groups and customer service are going to be walking a very thin line on delivery of healthcare services. It raises all sorts of questions around what kinds of licenses and capabilities and training are going to be required for those customer service organizations, and how those different entities deliver the service itself. So it's going to be a really, really interesting aspect of our industry that's going to unfold over coming months and years. And I would imagine that a great deal of both interest and capital, and quite honestly, patience, is going to be required for us to move to the next generation and next level of adoption for these technologies and access to these technologies. So it's really access and then adoption. So